Hello there. What is going on, everyone? We're going to be talking about Star Wars Shatterpoint today, and I've got some concerns about the game and its future. Not too many, but I do have a big one that I want to bring up, and it's something that's been sort of on my mind for a while, and I haven't talked about yet, and I've just been waiting for the right time, and I feel like the time is now. So if you guys are new here to the channel, I talk a lot about Star Wars tabletop games. I'd love to have you guys stick around. We are still doing that giveaway. It's running until Halloween, so you have just a little bit of time left to enter to win that one. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that, and that's for a $100 Amazon gift card giveaway. And we're going to be announcing that just after Halloween, so you have just a little bit of time left to get your entries in. So let's talk about Star Wars Shatterpoint. Look, I've been talking about this game. I've done unboxings, how to plays, reviews, all that stuff. It's a fun game. It's area control, battling with miniatures, Star Wars miniatures, dudes on a map, 3x3, terrain, height advantage. Height of terrain being a big part of the game, and it's got its dice, and it's got its it's beautiful, beautiful gameplay, and all of that good stuff. It's a fun game. It's got awesome team composition where you can kind of build your dream team. It's got cross-era play, so while it starts off with the Clone Wars, it's going into other eras as well, like the Galactic Civil War and possibly beyond. It opens a lot of doors for things that they can do with Star Wars and tabletop games. It allows them to kind of get into even other eras in the future if they want to do that. So very cool stuff. It's got a very bright future ahead of it. But throughout all of the announcements and products and the news and the gameplay and learning the game and playing the game and seeing the new stuff that's coming and all the hype and all the excitement, I've got one major concern. And with I'm gonna elaborate on it more, but without trying to make you wait the whole video to tell you what it is. It's the fear of oversaturation, and it's sort of, I'm going to relate some of this to Marvel Crisis Protocol, because I feel like since this game is designed completely from the ground up by Atomic Mass Games, I feel like it's got certain things that are going to be more in common with Marvel Crisis Protocol than in common with like Legion, Armada, and X-Wing. So I feel like some of the parallels I'm going to make as to why I'm concerned are going to be more related to MCP and less to the other games. So let's talk about Shatterpoint and MCP and their similarities. Now, one of those similarities is that they both come with a core set that has kind of like a full build for you and an opponent to play. It's a 2-player starter set, pretty much, and you have an entire build, they have an entire build. So the core sets have a lot of similarity. Plus, both core sets come with terrain and have models that are in a very, very similar size and scale. Not exactly the same, but very similar. Bases also kind of look, that there's like sculpted, molded bases, so you don't have to do any special basing if you don't want to. So there's definitely a lot of appeal, so much so that when this was first announced, people said, oh, well, this is Star Wars Crisis Protocol. And there are a lot of similarities in the gameplay. There are also some distinct differences in the gameplay as well. So it's not the same game, but there definitely are some similarities. But that being said, it's not the same game as MCP. MCP obviously has had, I think, some lessons learned over the years, and they're looking to change that. One of the big lessons, I think, is the fact that MCP would have individual character expansions or sometimes 2 character expansions, and Marvel Crisis Protocol, I think they learned a lesson in that retailers were running out of shelf space, and the single character box was maybe not the best way to go. And so for the most part, Shatterpoint looks to be having, minimum of 4 characters in a box, largely, with a couple of notable exceptions. But for the most part, you're getting a lot more characters per expansion, which is a good thing. But if we go back through Marvel Crisis Protocol's kind of history, and by the way, it's just about to hit its 4-year anniversary. So the game is almost 4 years old, and that's still kind of young in the lifespan of a major skirmish miniatures game. So the fact that I feel like MCP has kind of suffered from oversaturation is why I feel like Shatterpoint is also at risk of that. And I'm going to get to certain individual points to kind of emphasize why I feel this certain way. But at first I had thought, well, Shatterpoint they've learned lessons since MCP, in the same way that Fantasy Flight games started out with X-Wing, and while it was huge and big and successful, there were also some pitfalls, and they kind of corrected a lot of those with certain other games. Like when Armada came out, there were a lot of lessons learned applied to it that they had learned from X-Wing, and then Legion, and so on and so forth. So the game making process and the strategy and the formula for putting everything together, they had grown because they, as a company, they're like, well, here's some lessons learned we can apply. And so I feel like Shatterpoint has some of those, but there are some things that kind of scare me when the game first comes out. Now, when I say oversaturation, what am I talking about? I'm not just talking about too much product too quickly, although that is definitely one of the fears, is that it would have too much product too quickly. That's more of a minor concern, because it certainly seemed like that at the very beginning of the game's launch, where we had, like 2 extra expansions launched with the core set plus the terrain boxes, and then like every couple of weeks, I think every month we were getting like a couple more, like 8 more characters or so, and it seemed like it was going in the same route that Marvel Crisis Protocol started out going, and then it was a constant stream. Marvel Crisis Protocol launched with like just a constant stream of new expansions that were always coming out, and it was like impossible to get caught up on your painting backlog unless you had an awful lot of free time. So and I understand that, especially for the game's first year. Star Wars Legion was kind of the same way, and this was a little bit different. This was, I think, a lesson learned. Like, other games didn't necessarily have quite as much. Armada had noticeably less, but having a constant stream of new expansions and new models every month was it was a lot, but it was, something that's kind of necessary, although I don't know if they need as much with Shatterpoint, considering there's so many models in every individual expansion. So as we kind of get past the initial wave, I expect things are kind of starting to slow down with Shatterpoint now. So maybe it's either just a temporary break, and we're getting ready to have a huge new influx in a couple of months once 2024 hits, or there's going to be a balance, where maybe it'll be an expansion or two every 2 months, or maybe every 3 months. I don't know if it needs to be 3 new boxes every single month, which is like 12 characters a month or something like that. I don't know if we need necessarily that much. So what is my then biggest concern? If it's not just oversaturation for product as a whole, it's oversaturation for individual characters. Too many duplicates, and this was something that Marvel Crisis Protocol started to do, and I didn't think that they would do here, because there's just so many Star Wars characters that they can do, especially the fact that they were doing, even some of the generic troopers. Like, you were getting like the unnamed Mandalorians and B1 battle droids and B2s and clone troopers, and so they were having like generics in here as well. So they're going to have plenty of room. And until they announced the core set, and like, here is a different version of Ahsoka Tano, the Padawan Ahsoka Tano. And so before the game even came out, there was already duplicates of individual characters. Now, this isn't a huge deal, right? Like, okay, like Ahsoka is one of those characters that has noticeably changed over the years and has, multiple forms. And this probably won't be the last. I expect there will be probably at least one more version of Ahsoka Tano. I would expect more of a grown-up rebellion era Ahsoka Tano. Eventually, who can work with the rebels, and that's in that rebellion era, and that's probably fine, as long as it's kind of kept in check. But there's always that case that they're going to, like, the fear that they're going to make so much product that they run out of characters and already start duplicating, and having multiple options of this character and that character, and I kind of worry about that, because we're seeing more and more of that, especially as they get into Galactic Civil War. There's already some duplicates of characters that we're seeing, and that kind of worries me a little bit. For one, it's sort of an issue when characters are, when characters are being duplicated, and it sometimes seems like for no good reason. I think Padawan Ahsoka Tano is a good reason, considering you're getting kind of like late Clone Wars era, Siege of Mandalore kind of Ahsoka from the Shatterpoint core set, jumping to Padawan. I'm like, okay, those are two sort of distinct different versions of Ahsoka, so I can kind of, that seems reasonable to me. But I think it was around the time that they had already announced you cannot run dual pack kind of was one of those that were just like, okay, now I'm a little concerned. So this was kind of the point that kind of rose my eyebrows quite a bit, and I'll explain why. So they had already announced at Adepticon that we were getting Galactic Civil War. There's already a Darth Vader and Stormtroopers pack, and I'm like, okay, cool. This is awesome. We're getting a Darth Vader pack. Not to mention that Darth Vader is sort of a duplicate of Anakin Skywalker from a certain point of view. You can debate that later. But we were already getting a Darth Vader. It's already kind of planned. And then they announced this. Well, here is a whole separate version of Darth Vader. I'm like, well, is it the same Darth Vader? And is it just an alternate model? Or is it a whole new character? And they had confirmed that this was a whole new character. Same thing goes with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And not only are these characters, alternates for existing characters, although in the case of Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's an alternate that came out after, General Kenobi was out. But in the case of Darth Vader here, he's an alternate that comes out before the other Darth Vader, like the classic Darth Vader, comes out, and they're totally different characters that perform different roles, and in a lot of ways they are more desirable than their other version. In the case of Obi-Wan, well, he is a secondary here, which allows you to do more dream teams. He's also capable of being run, both of these characters being capable of being run in a wider variety of eras. So you can now run Darth Vader with clones, or run him with stormtroopers, and so there's a whole lot of more flexibility with these characters, and some really, really cool groovy abilities that their other versions won't have. So now it's like, well, if I want to be a completionist, or if I want to be competitive, or if I want to have my builds, I have to buy multiple versions of Darth Vader. And while this version of Obi-Wan Kenobi is more kind of like the old man Kenobi, like Ben Kenobi, Darth Vader is really just Darth Vader. It's not like we really need 12 different versions of Darth Vader. And that's kind of my fear. I think that kind of summarizes what my fears are, is that we're going to, like, as somebody who is into Shatterpoint, if you want to buy the Shatterpoint stuff, if you like the Empire, or if you like Darth Vader, there's going to be too many versions of him, at a certain point. And maybe that's not a problem for a lot of people. Maybe you don't have a storage problem, maybe, I don't, that's just one of those things. It irks me. And it's something that Marvel Crisis Protocol has been doing, especially with the announcement of their Earth's Mightiest core set. This was another thing that kind of made the eyebrows raise again. And then it's not necessarily a bad thing that they're redoing their core set. I think, I talked earlier about how they're doing, applying lessons learned over the years. And, this was a kind of a big announcement. And that they were doing another core set, and it's the interesting thing to me is that it's the same characters for the mostly the same characters that are in the original core set, but it's all new versions of them, and like different sculpts, and also new abilities, like the character card. So totally new ability. So like in the case of, so I'm going to use the case of Spider-Man, for example. We've got so many different versions of Spider-Man. The game hasn't even been out 4 years yet, and we already have 4 versions of Peter Parker Spider-Man. Original core set. Okay, this was the original Spider-Man. Then we had a special reprint that was Spider-Man versus Dr. Octopus, which was kind of a way for them to redo sculpts and come up with these fancy holographic cards, which was way better than this. Like, now the old one's obsolete. You don't want that one anymore. But then they came out with the Amazing Spider-Man, who was kind of superior to the regular Spider-Man. So you didn't really, and I had to go up against him one time, and he totally wiped the floor with me. I'm like, wow, he's way better than any of the other Spider-Man that they have. And now there's a whole new version of Spider-Man, and they're all Peter Parker Spider-Man. So you can't run them all together unless they come up with some kind of, a spider multiverse kind of thing. But, but this, and these aren't the only characters that have duplicates of. They had a duplicate Black Widow right away, and so like you're getting I think there's like 3 Black Widows now. And there's other versions of Spider-Man too, but they're not Peter Parker Spider-Man. So there's lots of Spider-Man in this game, and I think it's a little too much, at least for me. But then again, maybe other people feel differently. Maybe other people want a new version of Spider-Man every 3 months. Maybe you really love to paint Spider-Man, and I feel like the reason that this is a concern to me is because we're going to have the same kind of treatment for Darth Vader. I mean, if you look at Legion, which has been around for a while now, we got quite a few versions of Darth Vader in there. Now, we had, Operative Vader and Commander Vader, and then there was the, Celebration exclusive, which was just an alternate art, no gameplay difference. And now they're getting, so that, like, at least with Vader, you're just getting like an alternate art version. Then there's also another convention exclusive Vader in the Emperor's Throne Room. Again, just alternate art, no gameplay difference. So, as long as it's alternate art, it's like, I feel like it's not as big of a deal. Whereas if it's got a gameplay difference, then all of a sudden it's a bigger deal. And that's kind of, then you have to have it. Then or I mean, maybe you have to have it. Maybe this is just a me problem because maybe I'm a completionist and I feel like I've got to have everything. And if, in the moment I can't, this is the time that I kind of throw in the towel and say, you know what, I can't keep up anymore. I'm done. And that's kind of what happened to me with Marvel Crisis Protocol. It started to kind of become too much. And I just said, I can't keep up anymore. I'm done. And then, so I can't just go like halfway on a game, I guess in some games I can, I kind of do that in like when I play Age of Sigmar or some like Warhammer stuff. I can just if there's way too much there, I'll just buy a few things. It's kind of freeing to do that. But if you're a completionist, it can be hard to get in there and pick up everything. So that's kind of my concern is oversaturation. If they put out too much product, are they going to run out of things, or are they going to feel more compelled to do even newer versions of existing characters because they want to do some cool new art? Other characters I can see this happening with just the relatively few that are out already. Maul. I can see them doing a Darth Maul. I can definitely see that happening. Maybe he's a secondary or something like that, like Phantom Menace era Maul, like just the kind of sculpts. And I think it goes to my philosophy of like, I love the sculpts and I love the art, but I'm more of a gameplay first and sculpt secondary. But like maybe 55-45, as far as that balance. I don't want to have new sculpts at the expense of gameplay. And I feel like by making multiple new versions of the same character that aren't simply cosmetic releases, then you're kind of putting gameplay second. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's some of my thoughts, and I want to hear what your thoughts are. Do you have any of the same concerns? I mean, we're already starting to see it, and I hope it doesn't get carried away. I hope it's something that can be very limited. I don't want to get a new version of Darth Vader every 3 months. I don't want to have, 25 Luke Skywalkers. I can see there's certain, I can see like maybe 2 or 3 versions of Luke Skywalker tops, but I don't need all that many. I'd rather them be just alternate art versions where it's just alternate sculpts that if you're on a budget and you want to remain competitive, you might not feel like you have to rush out and get everything. That's kind of how I would like it to be, but I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know down in the comments section. That's going to wrap up today's video, guys. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know if you're playing Shatterpoint, or if you're not, what else are you playing, and do you share any of these concerns? I want to thank my patrons. You guys are out of this world and help make this channel possible. Thank you for your continued support. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. Always wash your socks, and have a great day.